There is a sound more deafening than war. It is the silence of a forgotten history. Imagine for a moment that you are the last person on Earth. You scream into the darkness, but there is no one left to hear you. You write your name on a wall, hoping that maybe in 1,000 years someone will find it and know that you existed, that you mattered. Civilization is built on a single fragile premise: the arrogance that we can transfer a thought from one mind to another across time. We operate on the belief that once something is written down, carved into stone, inked onto parchment, or coded into a server, it becomes immortal. We believe that writing is our insurance policy against the void. But we are wrong. The past is not a library waiting to be read. It is a graveyard of locked rooms. Inside these rooms are the voices of millions of people: emperors who believed they were gods, accountants who tallied the grain, poets who wrote of love, and priests who wrote of the apocalypse. They are shouting at us from across the centuries. They are desperate to tell us who they were, what they feared, and what they loved. But we cannot hear them. We are standing in front of the silent scripts. These are the codes that have never been broken. The 10 great messages from the grave that have defied our linguists, broken our supercomputers, and humbled our artificial intelligence. This is the story of the words that lost their voice. Let's turn the clock back, far back, before the pyramids rose along the Nile, before the first brick was laid in the ziggurats of Sumer. We are going to Neolithic Europe, around 5,500 years before the Common Era. In the rugged heart of what is now Transylvania, Romania, we find the first anomaly. Deep in the soil, archaeologists uncovered the Tartaria tablets. They are small, unassuming discs of baked clay, no larger than the palm of your hand. They look crude, almost childish. But the implications of these little discs are terrifying to a historian. If the carbon dating is to be believed, these tablets are over 7,000 years old. That would make them the oldest writing on Earth, predating the Sumerians by a millennium. But here is the problem. We don't know if it is writing. The symbols are jagged and abstract: a horned goat, a branch, a symbol that looks like a ladder. Are we looking at the first sentences ever written by human hands? Or are these merely magic symbols, doodles of the divine intended for a shaman's ritual, never meant to be read as language? Without a key, the Tartaria tablets remain a Rorschach test. We see what we want to see in them, but the tablets themselves remain stubbornly silent, the earliest ghost in the machine of human history. Now let the maps sweep across the Atlantic Ocean. We leave the cold earth of Europe for the humid, steaming jungles of ancient Mexico. Before the Maya built their great observatories, before the Aztecs forged their empire of blood, there were the Olmecs. They are the mother culture of Mesoamerica. We know their art, those colossal stone heads with stoic, helmeted faces that stare out from the rainforest. We know they were engineers and artists, but we do not know their names. For decades, we thought they were illiterate. Then we found the baby-face glyphs. On the backs of delicate jade figurines of infants, we found faint carvings. They are rare, scattered like breadcrumbs that lead nowhere. But the true mystery appeared on a roadside pile of debris. The Cascajal block, a serpentine slab of stone weighing about 12 kilograms, covered in 62 distinct symbols: insects, corn stalks, strange boxy eyes. It dates back nearly 3,000 years. Here is the heartbreak of archaeology. The Cascajal block has structure. It has syntax. It repeats certain patterns, just like a sentence does. It looks for all the world like a story, but it is the only one in existence. In linguistics, this is called a hapax legomenon, a word, or in this case a language, that appears only once. Now imagine discovering a single page torn from a book, written in a language no one speaks with no dictionary to translate it. That is the Cascajal block. It is a library of one. A message in a bottle that washed up on the shore, but the ink has blurred and the sender is gone. While the Olmecs were carving jade in the jungle, on the other side of the world, the machinery of the state was turning. we move to the arid browns and golds of the Iranian plateau, to the ancient civilization of Elam. If there is one universal truth about civilization, it is this: the state runs on paperwork, and the Elamites left us mountains of it. We call this script Proto-Elamite, and unlike the mysterious Olmec block, we actually know what this text is about. It's not poetry, it's not religion, it's accounting. We have thousands of clay tablets that are essentially spreadsheets. We can read the numbers. We can see the symbols for barley, for slaves, for yoke. We can follow the math. Person A paid person B this much grain. But the linguistic code, the nouns, the verbs, the names of the people, is completely locked. It is a bureaucracy of silence. Imagine finding a stack of tax returns from a Martian civilization. You recognize the format, you see the calculations, but you have no idea who is being taxed or what they are buying. We are staring at the economic heartbeat of a dead empire, watching the money move, but we cannot see the faces of the people holding the coins. Centuries later, the Elamites tried again with a script called Linear Elamite. Recently, scholars claimed a breakthrough on identifying the name of a king, Puzur-in-Shushinak. It was a moment of triumph, but it was fleeting. The academic community remains divided and the victory is fragile. Without a Rosetta Stone, a single text written in 2 languages to act as a bridge, every translation is just a guess masquerading as a fact. Let's move west, to the blue waters of the Mediterranean, to the island of Crete. Here, the Minoan civilization flourished. They were Europe's first true superpower. They had multi-story palaces, complex plumbing systems, and a navy that controlled the seas. And, like any superpower, they had a writing system. We call it Linear A. Linear A is perhaps the most frustrating ghost of them all. Why? Because we can read it. The Minoans shared many symbols with the later Greeks, whose script, Linear B, was deciphered in the 1950s. So, we can look at a Linear A tablet and pronounce the sounds. We know that this symbol sounds like KA, and that one sounds like TI. We can read the words aloud. We can fill the air with the sounds of the Minoan language. But when we speak them, they mean absolutely nothing. It is a dead language, in the truest sense. It isn't Greek. It isn't Semitic. It has no living relatives on the family tree of human language. It is an orphan. We can read the script, but we cannot access the mind. The meaning died the day the Minoan palaces burned. We are left holding the phonetic shell of a language, hollow and empty. And sitting in the middle of this Minoan mystery is the outlier, the object that keeps cryptographers awake at night, the Phaistos disk. Dating to 1700 BCE, this clay disk shouldn't exist. The symbols on it? A mohawk-wearing man. A shield, a captive, a bee, were not drawn by hand, they were stamped. Someone created 45 distinct stamps and pressed them into the wet clay. Think about that. That is the principle of movable type. That is the printing press, invented 3,000 years before Gutenberg. But as far as we know, they printed only 1 page. Is it a board game? A geometric theorem? A hymn to a goddess? Or, as some cynics suggest, is it an elaborate ancient hoax? The disk spins in its glass case, mocking us with its spiral of secrets. It is a piece of technology that arrived too early, or perhaps a piece of a puzzle we have lost the box for. Now we travel east, to the banks of the Indus River, in what is now Pakistan and India. 4,000 years ago, this was the site of a utopia. The Indus Valley civilization was larger than Egypt and Mesopotamia combined. They built brick cities laid out in perfect grids. They had great baths, but strangely, they had no grand palaces and no obvious temples. It seems to have been a society of traders and engineers, perhaps the most egalitarian of the ancient world. And they wrote. They wrote on everything, on pottery, on copper plates, on square soapstone seals. We see the famous unicorn emblem with text floating above it. But here lies the Indus paradox. The texts are impossibly short. The average inscription is only 5 symbols long. The longest one ever found is less than 30 characters. To crack a code, cryptographers need patterns, they need redundancy, they need long paragraphs of text to analyze syntax and grammar. The Indus people never left us a book. They left us business cards. This brevity has led to a controversial theory. What if it isn't writing at all? Some scholars argue that these symbols are like non-linguistic signs, like a badge on a uniform or a symbol on a heraldic shield. If that is true, then the Indus people were the only major civilization in history to remain illiterate by choice. But if it is false, then we are missing the laws, the myths, and the wisdom of 5 million people. We are missing the voice of one of the cradles of humanity. We leave the ancient continents now. We fly fast over the vast, empty blue of the Pacific Ocean until we find the most lonely place on Earth, Easter Island, Rapa Nui. Isolation usually kills progress, but here, isolation bred invention. On this tiny speck of land, the Rapa Nui people did something that has happened only a handful of times in human history. They invented writing completely on their own without outside influence. They called it Rongo Rongo, to chant out. The script is beautiful. Carved into driftwood and ceremonial tablets, the glyphs look like little men, birds, fish, and the curves of the moon. The way you read it is unique. You read the first line from left to right, then you flip the wooden tablet upside down to read the next line. It is a continuous flowing loop, like the waves surrounding the island. But the story of Rongo Rongo is not just a mystery, it is a tragedy. The silence here was not caused by time, it was caused by cruelty. In the 1860s, slave raiders from Peru landed on the island. They kidnapped the population, decimating the culture. They took the kings, now the priests, and the distinct class of scholars who held the knowledge of the script. The library didn't burn, the readers did. By the time the outside world took notice and asked, "What do these symbols mean?" the last man who could answer was dead. The wood remains, but the song has ended. Finally, we arrive in Europe, but not the ancient Europe of clay and stone. We are in the Renaissance. We are in the courts of Italy, or perhaps the laboratories of Prague. We are looking at a book that is the Mount Everest of code-breaking, the Voynich Manuscript. Carbon dated to the early 15th century, this book is a hallucination bound in vellum. It contains 240 pages of looping, elegant cursive script. It flows. It has rhythm. It looks for all the world like a functioning language. But the illustrations tell a different story. We see plants that do not exist on Earth, botanical chimeras with the roots of one species and the flowers of another. We see astrological charts that match no known sky. We see pages and pages of naked women bathing in strange green interconnected tubes. The greatest codebreakers of the 20th century, men who cracked the Nazi Enigma machine, agents from the NSA, brilliant computer scientists, have all broken themselves against this book. The text follows something called Zipf's law, a statistical rule that governs all natural human languages. The frequency of the words behaves exactly like a real language. It is not random gibberish. It has a pulse. But it translates to absolutely nothing. Is it the secret notebook of a medieval alchemist? A medical manual? Or is it the most elaborate, expensive practical joke in history? A hoax so perfect that it continues to fool us 600 years later? Every year someone claims to have solved it, and every year the solution falls apart. The Voynich Manuscript sits in a library at Yale University, a siren song that lures in the brilliant and drives them mad. Linear A, Rongo Rongo, the Indus script, the Voynich Manuscript. Why do we care? Why do we spend millions of dollars and countless hours trying to read these silent messages? Because they are reminders. They are warnings. They remind us that knowledge is not guaranteed. It can be severed. Civilizations collapse. Climates change, people die, and when the continuity breaks, the conversation stops. We assume our digital age is safe. But today, we generate more data in a single afternoon than these ancient civilizations did in a millennium. We store it on magnetic tapes and hard drives that degrade in decades. We use file formats that become obsolete in years. Deep in the deserts of New Mexico, scientists are currently struggling to design a warning sign for a nuclear waste facility. They need to create a symbol that says danger to a human being 10,000 years in the future. They are terrified that our English, our Spanish, our Chinese will be as unreadable to them as linear A is to us. They are afraid that our danger sign will be misinterpreted as treasure. We are not so different from the scribe who pressed a reed into wet clay in Sumer, or the priest who carved a piece of driftwood on Easter Island. We are all just trying to project our voice into the future. We are writing our story into the void, hoping that somewhere, somewhen, someone will find the key. But until then, we are just another silence, waiting to be heard.